Hey, Christian here. We've got another domain and range question to tackle, but this one is dealing with a fraction as well as a square root symbol. So we've got 1 over the square root of x minus 1. Now, typically speaking, when you're dealing with domain, you have to think about either the fact that you've got the square root function, which can only take positive or values or 0, or you've got a fraction which cannot have 0 as a denominator. When you put them together, it's actually pretty straightforward if you think about it. The square root part rules out all negative numbers, and the fraction itself rules out 0. So what we basically boiled down to for the domain here is we cannot have x minus 1 less than 0 or equal to 0. It is only allowed to be greater than 0. Now, very simply, that just means that x has to be greater than 1. It's actually pretty straightforward, and that is the domain. As long as x is greater than 1, then we don't have a negative value, so we're fine in terms of the square root function, and we don't have a 0, so we're fine in terms of the fraction. This is the domain. Our domain, very simply, as long as x is greater than 1, we're not going to have a problem. Range, on the other hand, we need to think about. Range always takes a little bit more concentrating because we have to think about the after effect. Now, we're going to assume that the domain is valid, so that x is always greater than 1. If x is greater than 1, let's think about the consequences, right? If x is greater than 1, then the portion inside the square root symbol is definitely bigger than 0. If that's true, then the square root of that number is also definitely bigger than 0. If we take 1 over any positive value, the answer is guaranteed to be a positive value. There's no possible way the fraction can equal 0 because 1 over anything can never equal 0. It's not physically possible. And we know that the denominator is going to be positive because we have set x to be greater than 1. So our range is going to be most definitely y can be anything positive, not including 0. That's our range. Now, you get the range just from a series of consequences, so you've got to think about, alright, based on the domain that I've got, what's going to happen throughout the process of the function, and what is that going to give as an end result? If you've only got a positive value on the bottom, then you square root that, and you've got a positive value, do 1 over that, you've got a positive value, right? There's no other possible consequences, but you have to think what those consequences would be. So that's it for this question. If you want to see dozens more just like it, jump into the program Making Sense of Methods. I look forward to seeing you in there.